Hello, it's good to see you all again. And now we're going to venture into how to draw great line quality. Drafting is extremely important, and one of the most key things is how to draw different types of line weights and line thicknesses for different parts of the drawing. So we're going to do a simple little exercise, and we have to have our correct tools. Once again, your nice drafting table with a parallel bar. You'll still need your scale, and you'll need to print the directions on this line assignment and the little demonstration of how it's going to turn out. Also, what's important is the most important tool is your different pencils and different thicknesses and different lead weights. So these are very important that we have those 3 pencils in different lead weights and different sizes. This will give us the line quality and line thickness that we seek. So it is important that you start off with a nice clean surface. We will also be taking an 8.5 by 11 sheet of vellum. And how do you achieve that? You will be taking one of your larger pieces of vellum and cut it in half. So we'll get started, and let me show you how this works. Learning to draw lines, different line weights and different thicknesses is key to successful drafting. It's important that you review Chapter 2. It gives you some strategies, but nothing really is quite as effective as practice, practice, practice. So as you go over the Chapter 2, it talks a little bit about lines. This is what we're going to go over. There are 3 types of lines that we deal with in this particular assignment. We are dealing with a light, thin line, a medium line, and a dark line. You will find that these lines are prevalent in all different drawings. Now, as we go further in the course, you'll understand what different types of lines are: dash lines, center lines, break lines. But for today, we want to focus on solid lines and line quality. How to use this pencil, this instrument, will help you to create a perfectly straight line that's consistent and just the right thickness and the right darkness and lightness that you need. These lines represent something in a drawing. A dark line represents an outline or a structure. A medium line often represents a more secondary architectural feature in a space, and a small thinner line may be something that is more delicate and not seen or as relevant or important. For instance, when we look at this drawing, though it's done in computer, it's the same concept. The thick, darker lines, the dark, big black areas represent structure. We may have medium lines that represent architectural features, and then yet even thinner lines. Each one of these tell the importance of the architectural feature. So it is extremely important that we learn to master line weight, line thickness, and line lightness and darkness. Here is a little do's and don'ts, and we will walk through on how to hold a pencil. It's important that you do not hold it so tight as to create a very dark crease in your paper plane. Also, you want it to be a couple of inches away from the tip, not too close, right here, but a little further away. We like to drag our line with a nice consistent stroke, creating a very consistent line from beginning to end. You don't want to kind of stop and start and kind of push it through. You want to pull it through with a fluent, nice stroke. Now, as you continue through this book, you'll see here we have heavy, medium, light, and very light lines. We'll go over this in the lecture, but each one of these has a certain purpose. And how do you achieve a very dark, heavy line? A lot of it has to do with two components. How big is your pencil lead? That means thickness. And how soft or hard it is. The softer the lead, the darker the line. The harder the lead, the thinner and lighter the line. But there are different pencils, and each pencil comes with different thicknesses. The higher the number, the thicker the pencil. The lower the number, the smaller the actual line will be. So here, 0.5 is smaller than 1.0. Here we have another pencil. This one is 0.7, which is a little bigger than 0.5, but not as big as 0.1 or 1.0. So each one of these is going to give me different thicknesses. But it depends on what type of lead I put in that will give me darknesses. So today we like to start with maybe an H lead or HB. That'll give us a nice darker line. Ultimately, your project will look something like this. There will be 3 areas. One with a thin line, a medium line, and a very heavy dark line. So with the thin line, you obviously want to use a smaller pencil. A 0.2 or a 0.5 will achieve a thin line. Then you want to go up to maybe a 0.7 for a medium line and a 0.9 or 1 for a thicker line. Sometimes you'll have to actually do a couple lines to create this thickness. But the darkness will also come from your lead softness. So as you review this, they talk about the various leads that will achieve various lightness and darknesses. Now, as we start to draw, one of the ways that we like to create a consistent line is when we drag our pencil, we kind of roll it, keeping this surface even so it doesn't wear out. So you kind of roll it and twist it as you're drawing. It creates a nice, consistent line, not what we call a wobbly line, where it comes in and out of thickness. We want to give ourselves a very consistent line. That is what I'm looking for in your project. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to create that. And there's different types of lines, of course, horizontal and vertical. So let's get to that. First thing we want to start off is with a nice clean piece of vellum. You are required to purchase 11 by 17 sheets. You will then fold it in half, cut it, and now you have a perfect 11 by 17 piece of vellum. We also use these things called drafting dots, and we put them one in each corner. Drafting dots are one of the equipment that we like to use. And we also kind of reuse them. You take them and you can reuse them. Drafting dots are very handy, and they go in each corner of your drawing. Now, you will be given instructions on how to create this template. Do not put this paper right on top of here and copy it. This is not to scale. So we want to make sure that you are learning how to follow directions. The first thing we want to do is create what's called a title block. Now, as you've already noticed, this is a very heavy line. A title block is something that all drawings are required to have, and they contain information. You're going to give me the date, your name, the drawing assignment, which is listed right here, and the name of the assignment. That gives me the information I need. First thing we do is we create a 1/2 inch border all the way around. And this is handy to use your scale. So I go to the 1/2 inch area, makes it easy, and we create what's called a little tick mark. One here, I create one here, and one at the bottom. Now this is where it's very handy to use this parallel rule or parallel bar as we push this up. And first I'd like to do is just create a very light line. I barely drag it in. Okay? That way I know that's a 1/2 inch. Then we use our nice handy long triangle. This one is a 30-60 triangle. And I align that little tick mark, lightly sweep this down, just very light. And I would do the same. You rest nice securely your drafting. Now, most of the time they say to draw up, if you can get used to that. That way you're not smearing your ink. So I am now creating a nice border. Now I will gently lift this up slightly as I move my parallel bar forward. Oops. Let's get all the equipment out of the way. That's only, okay. And this should slide nicely, and I slightly, okay. Now I know I have my outline. So first we call this blocking. With a very, very light hand, we measure out all the components we need. And on this paper, it shows you what you need to do. So as you read this, you are going to be creating 3 boxes that are 7.5 by 3 inches. So start from the top and let's go down 3.5 inches. And I can certainly use my inch scale. So for 3, I'm gonna have to do it this way. And I don't know if you can be able to see it that way, but I will go 1, 2, 3.5. That gives me 3.5 inches. 3.5. Then you need another 3.5. So you'll measure 3.5 inches. And so forth. And to create your little boxes. Oh, I'm so sorry, 3 inches. I did a little mess up, and that's why we have erasers. That's the best part. So 3 inches by 7.5. So let's just do that over. That's why we don't do this too dark. So 3 inches and 3 inches and another 3 inches. Gives me exactly 1.5 inches left. So now we're starting to create these separations. So once again, you will drag your parallel bar and slightly give yourself a nice clean line there. And you will have what's called the block out of your drawing. So as you start to create this, you will start to see that this is coming to life. Go ahead and follow the directions. Now you're going to go into 1/4 inch and create a little window inside each box. Once you lay this out in a light manner, so you go 1/4 inch, so let's just go to that 1/4 inch scale. Slightly all the way around. And you are going to create a 1/4 inch box in here. Once again, a 1/4 inch block around this entire window and one here. And that gives you a nice window to work with. And you'll do it on all 4 sides so that you can create this light box. This is where you're going to start your line and finish it. You're not going to go to the complete edges. You're only going to go to that 1/4 inch border that you've created. So as we start to, now you don't have to do the whole thing. You can slightly just give yourself a nice line. See, because it's all 1/4 inch. Go ahead, right here, just a nice light line. This is called blocking out. We don't want it heavy. So we've got the 1/4 inch on those sides. And then you will go ahead and create that 1/4 inch above. So go ahead and create your 1/4 inch here and so forth. We'll have to measure. lightly, light, and another one lightly, very light. So you kind of see the point. So I've just created this little box here. Now inside this box is where we're going to place our lines. And this is where I want you to practice. I'm not going to create this whole thing, but making sure that you're using the smaller leads for the top box. Let's say in this case, I would probably use my 0.5. In this medium box, I would probably use a larger lead, where are you? 0.7. And in this box, I would use my 1.0. So let's just do one of the lines. Remember, when you're getting into the smaller area, you want to also make each one of these 1/4 inch. How do you do that? Well, good thing you have your scale. You actually set the 1/4 inch here, and you start to, we call tick, every 1/4 inch right here. See that? Now I have the perfect measurements for my lines. And you will do that on each one of these boxes. Then as you use this parallel rule, this bar, that's where you will start from the top and go to the bottom. The reason why we do this is so that we do not smear our pencil. If we started doing our pencil lead at the bottom, we often smear our lead, which leads to a very messy paper. So often we like to draw from the top to the bottom, from the left to the right, just to avoid that. So as you go through, you are going to create your perfect line. Like you said, you want to get it a nice pressure and a nice clean sweep. You want to create a very consistent line. Don't go over. If you do, make sure then you use your little eraser and kind of make sure you get right to the ends. You will continue to create that nice, consistent line, just one perfect swoop. And like I said, if you go over, you just erase it. And that's what we're looking for. We want to create thinner lines, medium, and very heavy lines. If this requires going over the pencil a couple of times, then you may need to do that. So let's just do one of the heavy lines. And we'll use our thicker pencil, which is right here. And we will give ourselves a nice thick line. I'm using some perfect pressure here. But I also might want to make it just a little thicker and go over it possibly twice till I get that nice thickness that I require. So that's looking like a nice heavy line. So compare it to this and see if you're getting that quality that you are looking for. Once again, this seems very rudimentary, but it is key. And if it's not coming out right, continue to practice till you have perfect lines all the way across. I will notice if you start to do what we call wobbly lines. That means that some of the areas will be, for instance, you kind of start and then you kind of fade. That's what I don't want, this fadiness. We want consistency all the way through. And some people do that and then they get off and they start to they go up and down. Really, you want to pay attention and create a very even pressure straight. So stopping and starting in the middle of the line is never a great idea. But make sure that they don't go wobbly in and out of thickness. I know you guys will do fantastic, and as we get further in line and practice more, your drawings are going to look fantastic. But let's just dive in and start working on our line quality. So as you can see, this pencil comes in quite handy when you need to do your architectural drawing. And I hope you feel more confident and have understanding why line quality, line thickness, and the lightness and darkness of a line is so important. That will help you define your drawings and become an excellent draftsman. I look forward to getting your projects, and trust me, we'll have plenty of practice on line quality. It is the key to successful design. So thank you for joining me. Don't forget once again to scan in your project and send it to me online.